before you go out there to help other people, you have to understand yourself first, so that when any other person comes to you, you can be able to understand or to imagine what the other person is going through. So that is why we have to do these personal development exercises, so that we become aware of some of the issues, so that when the others will be talking about them, we know what it feels. We are also going to look at briefly the skills. And this is what makes most people to ask why counselors they can be able to read your mind. We read someone's mind by using these skills, which we are going to look at. Which skills do we use so that someone or that staff can be able to share the information with you? How are you going to make someone who is so reserved to be able to open up and talk about his or her issues? So we are also going to look at the introduction to ethics in counseling practice. Like if you as an HR, yes, you want to help this employee, you want to help this person, you want to help this individual. What protects you or what guides you in whatever decision you'll be doing, or in whatever actions you are going to take? What is this which is going to guide you? So we are going to have a look at those ethical guidelines, where we are also going to look at the issue of confidentiality. Then we look at some of the application of counseling at the workplace. We usually say that we have those, we call them at times the cross-cutting issues. These cross-cutting issues, they are the issues which mostly people go through. Whether you are working or not, you are at your workplace, you are at your family level, or you are in social places, there are some issues which are cross-cutting. So we'll be able to look at some of these issues. There are many, but we'll be able to have a look at some of them. Then we are going to look at the theories in counseling, and we usually say that we don't just ask our clients questions. When you ask a question, you have a reason why you're asking that question. And these questions we'll be asking our clients, we have a reason why we are asking them. And then once you have learned maybe a certain behavior, or you have observed a certain behavior in an individual, then you'll be able to predict. That's why we talk about theories. Theories helps us to predict, or maybe to look at how we can be able to come in and intervene by helping this client. Those will be under the techniques. Then we are also going to look at the emerging issues in counseling, because counseling started from somewhere. Where are we now? Where were we and where are we now? There are so many issues which are coming in. So which are these emerging issues which have come in? Like now, we have the issues of COVID, and clients need to be taken through the counseling sessions. And you can see we need to keep that social distance. So what has come in differently, which we never used to do maybe oftenly, but now we can be able to use it. So those are some of the things we are going to look at. Then here, when we are brainstorming, we usually ask, what is counseling? How can you tell someone this is counseling? How can you tell someone now you are guiding? How are you going to tell someone now you are advising? So those are the things, the terms we need to look at, because mostly we tell people, I've really counseled this person. And maybe in the whole of that session, you've been advising, you are telling them what they need to go and do. You are showing them, okay, maybe you are giving your own opinion so that a person can be able to implement that. Maybe that's advice giving. So what is this guidance? And we usually say when we are talking about guidance is whereby you try to show the way, you try to guide the individuals talking about, we need to understand these different terms so that we know, what are you doing? Are you guiding? Are you counseling? Are you advice giving? Like briefly, I'll just talk about when we talk about guidance. Guidance, you want to show someone the way. You want maybe to teach them on how things are supposed to be done because you know them, you know that. You guide because you are an expert. You guide because you are knowledgeable. You guide because you know what it takes. That is guiding. So we say mostly the people are guiding counselors is like you are telling the people, you are showing the people, you are imparting that knowledge to those people because you have that authority and you know it. But when we talk about counseling, it is the client who is an expert. It is the client who knows what the issue is. It is the client who knows what action they can be able to take. And under counseling, we are going to look at it because you find that mostly even in exams. Let's see. I want to see how to move these slides. Okay. Like in an exam, you can also be asked, you talk about the difference between guidance and counseling, because I've seen it coming in some of the exams that they want you to know about the difference so that an examiner can be able to know, or that person whom you're talking to can be able to know. So briefly, let's look at what counseling is. Counseling, it's a helping process. Remember, anytime you're with your client, we want you to help that client. And when you're helping that client, at times you can try to help your client, but you get stuck. So if you're getting stuck and you're going around and you're not helping that client, then there's an issue. So when we talk about a counseling process, it is gradual. It has stages. We are going to look at them later. Then, sorry. I thought maybe I'll just mention briefly, but where you have questions, then you need to ask. So under this counseling process, we look at it later. We say it has stages. And when we talk about the counseling process, we have 3 stages, whereby we have the exploration stage, we have the action stage, and then we have the understanding stage, then the action stage. Like in one of the exams, they had set and they were asking, talk about the tasks under the exploration stage. And here, you can call them tasks, you can call them aims. And when we talk about the counseling process, we are going to look at it in detail. What are we supposed to do so that the exploration stage can be able to be effective? And then as you explore, it's like you're helping a client to go deeper. You're helping a client to discover, you're helping a client to find out what is this which is hidden, which is making them to go through this issue. So what are you going to do so that a client can feel like they can be able to open up to you and they talk about the issues? That is under the exploration stage. Then we'll go to the understanding stage. And under the understanding stage, this is where when you're talking to someone, I know in the normal life, there's a time you have talked to someone, you have an issue, and then you reach someone, you say, oh, have known what the issue is. If you have gone there, that is the understanding stage. We are going to look at it. Then we have the action stage. Action stage is whereby you are going to transfer the learning. We'll come back to that under the counseling process. I'll just mention about it later. Then for this counseling, it uses some safety engendered. Safety engendered means there is that environment which is conducive for the client, that environment where the client is going to talk about their issues, their information is going to be kept confidential, that no one is going to be, maybe that information is not going to be shared to another person. That is what, that safety has to be ensured. That safety has to be there. The environment has to be conducive. That trustworthiness has to be there so that the client can be able to feel safe, so that they can be able to go deeper and explore what the issue is. And for them to be able to explore, and that safety to be ensured, there has to be that special kind of relationship. So when we talk about this special kind of relationship, how do we establish the special kind of relationship? We have one psychologist called Carl Rogers, who say that for us to be able to have that special kind of relationship with our clients, we need to possess their core conditions. And this is also something which is examinable mostly. You talk about the core conditions. These core conditions, they are core, they are main, which each one of us we need to possess. So at times you find that you can be given a case study and you read that case study and then you are asked under this theory, like under person-centered, which techniques did this client use or this HR use when he was helping the client? Then remember, under person-centered, that's why we have only 3 techniques, which are the core conditions. So for us to establish this special kind of relationship, we need to possess the core conditions, which we call the empathy. Empathy is whereby you feel as if you are in that situation. You feel with your client, you don't feel for your client. You walk with your client. You be at the same wavelength with your client. Means like when a client is sharing about his or her issues, you are walking with that client and you try to imagine, by the way, to come up with that empathy, you try to imagine what your client is going through. And that is why we say that to make this is an attitude at one point. How will someone know that you are really empathizing with them? Is when you try to imagine what your client is going through. And in that session, you can say, I can imagine what you're going through. I guess what I'm getting. So a client will be able to know that you are really trying to empathize with them. There's a time even they were asking about the empathy process. When you hear empathy process, when they're talking about the empathy, so please, it is just the same thing you talk about. The other core condition is the unconditional positive regard. When we talk about the unconditional positive regard, this is whereby you accept your client the way he or she is without you laying any condition that, Flora, before you talk to us, we want you to introduce yourself. You tell us when you are born, you do A, B, C, D. That is a condition. But can you be able to accept me the way I am without you laying any conditions? No matter how offensive my behavior, my characters are, accept me with that weakness. Accept me with that strength I have in me, so that we can be able to work together. You don't label me. You don't use labels. You don't say that latecomer, that non-performer, that non-presenter. You don't something like that. That one you have already laid a condition. So when we talk about unconditional positive regard, you accept that client or that employee the way he or she is without you laying any condition. If you do that, then it's going to help you to have that special kind of relationship with your client. The other core condition is genuineness. When we talk about genuineness, is being real. In one of the papers, I've seen them maybe asking, like the inner you and the outer you, it has to match. Explain. And this one, we are talking about, indirectly, they're asking about genuineness. Genuineness is whereby the inner you and the outer you matches. That if you're not happy with me, let it even be portrayed from inside and outside. At times we like pretending. At times we like using facades. At times we like using masks. Then we are not very genuine. That's why someone asks you, how is your boss? And mostly we like saying, I like my boss, and we like you the way you are guiding us and taking care of us. But when he goes out and is like, oh my God, when is this person going to leave this place? Then you are not genuine. Genuine is whereby if you are happy, then even from within you are happy. If you are not happy, you show it outward and from within. So genuineness is being the real you. If you have those 4 conditions, then you're going to have that kind of relationship or special kind of relationship with your client. And again, under this special kind of relationship, what also can make that relationship to be more special? We have also what we call the enhancement variables. If you possess these enhancement variables, then you add them to the core conditions, then this relationship is going to be very, very special. These enhancement variables, this is whereby we talk about trustworthiness. Are you a person who is going to be trusted, who is going whereby the client's information is going to remain confidential? Are you a person who is not going to share this information the client or the employee sharing with you? How can a client be able to trust you that you're not going to betray them? You're not going to talk about their issues. That is about trustworthiness. Then we also have attractiveness. When we talk about attractiveness, are you a person who is approachable? Are you a person who looks like us, maybe friendly? Are you a person who kind of, your attitude is good that a person can be able to walk freely to you? You know, there's some people we struggle to approach. Even in our offices, we have staff or bosses whom you have to rehearse before you go to meet them. Then that person means is not approachable, is not kind, is not a person who is open, is a person who is at the roof. And here we say that when we talk about attractiveness, is a person whom you can easily walk to and you talk about your issues. And I usually say that, please, we need to practice this wherever we are. If people have to struggle to reach you or to talk to you, they know there's an issue here. So please try to be a person who is attractive, who is approachable. Then the other enhancement variable is expertness. And expertness, at times, it can be asked like competence. Are you a person who is competent? And instead of now them talking about expertness, they talk about competence. So this competence or this expertness is whereby we are talking about what are your qualifications? What is your academic qualification? What is your experience? What is your seniority? Which trainings have you done? You know, when someone comes and tells you, you know, this is my first session with you in the counseling skills, maybe taking you through as practitioners in counseling skills, you ask yourself, yani amekuja kutupraktisia, because they feel like you are not an expert, you are not competent, you have not gone through, maybe shared with other people so that you can be able to deliver well. So that is why we say that for how long have you experienced, you have practiced this? How many years? What is your academic qualification? Which people have you been able to help and you have had a successful maybe intervention? That one makes you to be an expert. So if you have those three core conditions, and you have those three enhancement variables, you are going to have that special kind of relationship with your client. Then, when you have all this, it is going to help individuals to get access to a greater part of their personal resources. Remember, clients or employees or individuals have some personal resources within them. But these personal resources are dormant. And for us to be able to help these clients, we need to explore with them. We need to go deeper so that we help them to find out what exactly is the issue. And as I said, you only have to ensure a conducive environment so that this client can be able to go deeper and discover these potentials they have within them, these personal resources they have which are dormant. And if you have to create that special kind of relationship, then this client is going to open up. Once they discover, then they are going to go deeper, they explore, and they are going to tap so many potentials they have within them. And these resources, the personal resources they have, it's like if option B or A fails, then you need to have option B so that you can be able to respond to any challenges we face in our normal lives. And that's why we say within us, there are so many things we can be able to do, but we are not aware that we have that ability, that we have that potential. But because of this exploration, because of this safety which has been bestowed on us, Because of that good relationship we have established, then it is going to help me to tap so many resources, which maybe I have within me, which I was not aware. And that is what can be able to help individuals to respond to those issues they are facing in their normal life. And this one, it uses some specific skills. We're going to look at those skills. And we're also going to look at the techniques. Techniques, we are going to get them when we go through the theories in counseling. And in fact, in the real sense, we say that in counseling, we only deal with normal individuals. Okay, like here we say that in counseling, we only deal with the normal individuals, not the mentally ill. If you assess, how will you know that a person is mentally ill? You listen to them as they are talking. Is there that coordination? Are they able to communicate? Is there a flow? How are they responding or interacting or behaving in that session? Those are the ones we say that we only deal with the normal individuals. But if you are taking your client through that counseling process and you observe some behaviors which are not maybe normal on how normal individuals are supposed to behave, and I usually say that, how will you be able to know this person is normal? Like for us, we are here. So like some of us, we are here. I ask myself, are we normal? So how will I be able to know that the 6 of us, we are here, we are normal? You can only know by how a person is behaving, is communicating, is responding, then you can be able to know. But if a person has mental issues, then you need to refer them to see a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist is a qualified doctor who can be able to administer medication to this client. Once they stabilize, then they can be able now to be taken through the counseling session. So we only deal, when I say we only deal as counselors, we only deal with normal individuals who are facing all difficulties in life. These difficulties can either be in social life, domestic life, or in work-related issues, the family life, work-related issues, and social life where we are interacting. And that's why we say there are so many issues which are related to work-related, which can make people to have some difficulties. There are so many. About the employer, about the supervisor, how you're interacting with the colleagues, how the environment at the workplace is when you get stagnated. I'm just mentioning this because of time that we cannot be able to brainstorm. Or you are reaching the ceiling, there's no promotion, maybe all those ones. So there are so many work-related issues. Even domestic issues, maybe there's that separation, you're having maybe domestic abuse, or let me say, domestic emotional abuse, economic, financial abuse. Maybe you're having issues with your house helps or your house boys, whoever. Maybe you have those loans. There's so many issues. All these ones, when you have them, those domestic issues can affect your performance at work. And work-related issues can also affect your family issues. So they are intertangled. You cannot be able to separate. So if you're not happy at home, even at your workplace, you might not be happy. If you're not happy at your workplace, you might transfer or displace those issues to the family. And this counseling, it also helps us to we grow emotionally. Emotionally means that when you are able to vent out, when you are able to express your issues, like the other day I was having a client, and this client is an employee in one of the organizations. So for him, he says that he has been having issues for quite some time, but he didn't want to come for counseling. And now here, the HR department has seen that there is a need for this staff to go for counseling session. So when I met him, he told me, I didn't want to come for counseling. And if we have to, not in this environment. But now it had to be done because it was the first session. Remember, this client has issues, but he has never taken an initiative to go for counseling sessions. And it was like, what will the others say when they learn that have gone for counseling? So for him, he's being disturbed about the others. So we say emotional fitness. By the way, now yesterday, he really shared his personal issues, not only related to work, Now, these other issues out here are the ones which have started affecting his performance. He has become an alcoholic. He has issues with his spouse. He has issues with the family. He moves to his house. He comes back to the parents' house. He's drunk all the time. He comes to work. He's not performing. Even there's a time he was found somewhere, maybe sleeping and is not working. So, but he was able to vent out, to talk about it. That is what makes a person to be emotionally fit and healthy. Talking alone is a healing in itself. That is briefly about counseling and what counseling is not. That is why we say at times you can be at a roadside. In fact, he was even telling me, si tunaweza enda kwa cafe tukaya, we are taking tea, then we continue with the counseling session. Nikamwambia no, that environment will not be conducive. So counseling is not a conversation that you can sit somewhere and you start exchanging your opinion, then you start just talking. It's not a conversation. It's not exchange of opinion. You are not interrogating. It's not a confession. Kama umekuwa pastor, ama umekuwa the father in a church or whoever, then you can be able to tell us. So can you be able to differentiate yourself that this counseling is not a confession? We are not also supposed to be advice giving. You are not supposed to advise your client on what they need to do. They know. That is why we need to help them to tap those personal resources within them so that they can be able to respond to the challenges they are going through. It's not a discussion. It's not whereby we need to influence our attitudes and beliefs to the clients or those employees that I wish you are saved, or I wish you can be able to be doing A, B, C, D. So you are influencing them. You are not supposed to influence your clients. You are not investigating. So among the many. So let's look at the difference between counseling and guidance. I just mentioned about it a bit. When we talk about, I'll do it the other way around. I'll talk about guidance, then I come to counseling. When we talk about guidance, the counselor is an expert. I told you, you are teaching them, you are showing them, you have authority, you know it. So counseling, the counselor is an expert under guidance. But in counseling, it is the client who is an expert because they're the ones who knows what the issue they're going through. And in guidance, it is structured in the sense that, like now, even what I'm doing, I know what I need to cover. So if you're going to ask me a question, which is not within this hour's presentation, because it is structured. But in counseling, it is unstructured in the sense that the issues the client is going to present, you don't know them. Even here, the presenting problem can be maybe non-performance, but underneath, there will be so many other issues which the client is going, or that employee is going to talk about. So you really don't know that what issues the client is going to talk about. Then in guidance, mostly it's being preventive, like not really that the issue has taken place, but you are talking to them so that they can see how they can be able to prevent the preventive issue. But in counseling, an issue or concern is existing. In guidance, you are giving information because you know it. You are an expert. You are showing them, you are teaching them. But in counseling, we say you share that information with your client. And in guidance, you are giving facts. You are telling them what it is from the authority. You can be able to have the reference. You know it, you are talking about it. But in counseling, we are supposed now to help clients to go to their feelings. How does it make you feel that now you have come to this class? How does it make you feel that now you are maybe going through this issue? So that is about counseling. So counseling, it's more about feelings, but in guidance, you talk about facts. So you don't care when you are talking, whether you're hurting those people, that's none of your business. But in counseling, you're so much concerned about the feelings of your client. And in guidance, it's outward, you're just talking, but in counseling, it's inward journey whereby you're making some discoveries. So in guidance, we say there's no limit of participants or number. You can talk to a multitude of people. It's like you are just talking, politicians. You just talk when you are preaching, preach to so many people. But then nani ameguzwa akuje mbele. Then now you come to counseling, which tells you it has a limited number so that you can be able to be in contact with the feelings of those clients. Something else I wanted to talk about, characteristic of an effective counselor. I might not talk so much about it because even this one, at times it can be asked somewhere, what are the characteristics of a good counselor? You can even ask this, what are the characteristics of a good HR manager? What are the characteristics of a good trainer or lecturer? So those things are the ones we just look at them because those characteristics you want to see in that counselor, in that HR manager, in that maybe the one who is in charge, they're the ones we want each one of us to possess. One, a person who can be able to create a conducive environment for clients. A person is not going to impose his own values. Like you are telling yourself, you are not supposed to come here when you are wearing or dressing this way. So those are your own values. I also have my values. And that is why we say my dress, my choice. Can you respect the people's values? Eh? So listening, are you able to listen? Are you competent in what you're doing? Are you a person who is also can be able to use the observation? You observe the behaviors of the clients or the employees, whether they are verbal or non-verbal. A person who is genuine, you are showing that interest. That is a person you want. A person who has patience. All of us, we are not the same. That's why you find that even now as I'm talking, there are some maybe who have not maybe grasped something or captured something. Don't hesitate to ask. So can I be able to be patient and take you back and repeat what I've already talked about? A person who can be able to maintain confidentiality. A person who can be able to use the silence. By the way, silence is a skill. But when you ask a question and someone is not responding, hiyo ni madharau. It's not, but you are using that skill so that someone can be able to process, a person who can be able to use those interpersonal skills. You talk, how do you talk and how do you listen to the other client? There are so many. So these other issues, I'll not go through them. These are other helping activities. This is like the ones I talked about, advice giving. Psychiatric, I've talked about is the person who goes for treatment when they have those psychological problems. So I'll not be able to go through all those. What I'll go through now is the counseling relationship, which I've just talked about. I talked about it. And we say counseling is a relationship. And this relationship, I said, you have to create that conducive environment. And this is Carl Rogers, who talked about those relationship issues, about the core conditions, about the enhancement variables. So you create that rapport, which is going to facilitate that change. And we have 3 conditions that needs to be developed. Later, looked at them. Later, we are going to look at them as skills, which he called them as skills. So we'll be able to look at that. I've mentioned briefly about empathy. I don't know whether I repeat or I can be able to skip it. What do you say? Niachane nayo, again I repeat it. Hello. As I said, empathy, you feel as if you are the one in that situation. You try to imagine, you work with your client, you be at the same wavelength, you try to wear the client's shoe. That's what I also talked about. Then, it's not moving. Okay, the other core condition I talked is about unconditional positive regard. This is the labels. And when you look at these core conditions, please try to understand them so that we know how we're supposed to apply them. So the labels given to the client, those are the ones I say, this is a late comer, this is an underperformer, those are the labels. It's about acceptance. You value other people like they're all human beings. You celebrate their differences. You irrespective of the offensive maybe behaviors the client has, can you be able to accept them, respect them? Genuineness, I talked about the willingness to be real, not to hide behind the professional facades, like not pretending, not wearing those masks, being concrete and the state of being. The enhancement variables, these are the ones I talked about, and we talked about expertness, and at times it can be called competence. So how skillful are you, the relevant education you have, specialized training, your seniority, and such like. Attractiveness, we talk about a counselor's friendliness. Are you a person who is likable, who has similarities with your client, who is approachable, They're the ones I also mentioned about. Then we have trustworthiness. This is whereby you as a helper, you will not mislead or injure your client, being honest and being sincere, maintaining that confidentiality, not make false promises. That's why we say when you are taking your client or you're trying to help your client, don't start promising them things which you know they might not be achievable. This one we are going to see it when we'll be looking at the ethics, whereby we talk about the fidelity. Are you a person who is going to keep the promises with your client? So we'll be able to look at it. Now, we have the counseling process. The one I told you that we are going to look at it. If I'm faster, let me know. If I'm okay, let me also know. Please don't hesitate to ask or let me know what I need to work on. So when we talk about the counseling process, the one I said counseling is a helping process. And we say process is a systematic way of doing things. So under this, when we talk about the counseling process, I told you we have 3 stages. And when we talk about exploration, we try to help our clients. You know, when you are exploring, you're making someone to go deeper and discover, to find out, then they can be able to articulate what exactly is your concern, so that we don't deal with symptoms. Like when you're doing your research paper, you don't deal with symptoms, you deal with the problem. So even here, we want to help our clients so that they can be able to articulate exactly what is their concern or their issue. They are trying to search what is this which is hidden, the hidden motives, the hidden feelings, the hidden or those thoughts which they are able, like when a person is talking, there's something which comes to their mind. And as they are thinking, they have those feelings. So all those ones will be able to help them to search. And we try also to help them to they become aware of some of these issues. So our role under this exploration stage is to create that conducive environment for these clients so that a client can also be willing. Remember, a client also has a role. Your role is to create a conducive environment as a helper. But the client's role is to be able to tell or to share their issue or their story, their narrative. Once you create that conducive environment, then the client is going to be able to willingly share his or her issues. So that is exploration. So what are the aims of exploration stage? Under this, there's somewhere also they call them the tasks of exploration stage. What is this which needs to be done so that exploration can be a success? So under this, we have one of the aims or the tasks under exploration so that exploration can be a success. You have to establish a working relationship. And how do we establish a working relationship? Remember the core conditions we talked about. Possess those core conditions, the unconditional positive regard, empathy, and genuineness. Also, use those enhancement variables, that is trustworthiness, expertness, and attractiveness. If you possess all that, it is going to help us to establish that working relationships with our client. Remember, this was one of the things they're asking, what are the tasks? Then 2, the other aim or the other task is to clarify and you define what exactly is the problem. And for us to be able to work together as a client and as a helper, for us to be able to work effectively, then both of us, we have to be reading from the same page, that we'll be able to know what issues are we exactly addressing. And as you are clarifying this, you also need to establish how is the client viewing himself or herself. Anajiona kama so helpless? Anajiona kama victim? Is he looking at himself like being helpless? So what maybe they believe and the experiences they have gone through? Who else is concerned about their issue? You know, when someone is talking, there are some people they'll be talking about. There are some people they'll be talking about positively, which means their relationship you will be growing towards them, or these are the people who are going to be supporting them. They are the people they will be talking negatively, whereby the relationship has withered. So who is concerned about them? Then we need now to help them so that they can be able to gain that insight and information of themselves. At times this is where you find clients come to a session and they tell you, I really even don't know what the issue is. But through that exploration and that clarification, a client can be able now to understand what exactly the issue they are going through. Then the other task called aim is to make an assessment. And to make an assessment, at times you can be asked, what is the importance of diagnosis? What is the importance of testing? If you go through, these are some of the terms which they can be able to change interchangeably, they can use interchangeably. So when we talk about to make an assessment, it's like you want really to know how your client was or is and how you'll be at the end of the session, and what is the purpose of this assessment. When we are making this assessment, when we are making that diagnosis, or when we are doing that test for our client, we want to obtain some information. We want also to identify what are these contributing variables. Like, what is this which is adding for this issue to continue being there? It's also going to help us to determine what is the client's goals for this counseling. And for us even be able to know the goals of a client, you can ask them, what do you want me to do? What are you expecting from this session? How do you want me to help you? So they'll tell you their goal. And in that session, you'll be working towards that. And this assessment also is going to help us to gather some baseline data. Like, you'll be able to know, like, when the client came in, this is where they were. We also do that assessment. We have the scale of 10 coming down to 1. So when your client came in, it was at level 10. Now, as the session goes, there are so many information you're going to gather. So when he goes down, you'll be able to know where he was or she was during the time she came in, and where now she is as you are ending your session. So you gather that baseline data. It's also going to help you to motivate your client. By the way, we always say that in a session, let's not dwell on negatives of a client. But if you pick something positive about your client, pick it. Even now you need to pick something maybe positive about me, but ile mbaya yote wachana nayo. So you'll be able to say that maybe what I've picked from you, you are a person who has patience. That when it motivates a client. Be picking positives. Please don't dwell on negatives, because they're going to demoralize a client. Then, as you're making this assessment, it's going to help us to have that effective treatment plan, that strategy, that what kind of intervention do we need so that we can be able to help this client. The other way also we can be able to make an assessment. This is a triangle. We call it Susan Gilmore's tool of assessment, whereby she used a triangle. So it is the one I've put here, but the one I've drawn here is not very clear. But when you see here, this is where you put the assessment. So assessment tool by Susan Gilmore. And remember, that is one way you can be able to make assessment. This is another way you can be able to make an assessment. So Susan Gilmore's tool, for Susan, she came up with the assessment tool, which she called Susan Gilmore's tool. And here in this triangle, inside here, she has put the assessment. Like, this is assessment. And then under this assessment, what are some of the issues is going to do the assessment? One, we have work, we have identity, and we have relationship. So when you are listening to your client, you want to make an assessment. Which dimension? These are 3 dimensions which Susan Gilmore came up with. And under these 3 dimensions, one of the dimensions is about relationship. Like, you listen to your client as they are sharing their issues. Which dimension is disturbing them? Is it about relationship? Is it about work? Or is it about identity? So one of the dimensions is relationship. And when we talk about relationship of the client with significant others. Remember when I told you, how is the client viewing himself? who are these significant people who are maybe he or she is mentioning in that session? That is the issue of relationship. So here we say, like they have significant others in a society, the people they value. So, and these relationships can either grow or develop, that is grow and develop, or become distant and weak. That's why I said, when they'll be talking positively about this person, this individual, then that it means that that person, they are close, their relationship has grown, their relationship has developed. But when they are talking negatively, or they don't want the way they are talking about that individual in a negative way, then it means the relationship has withered, or if they are distancing themselves from that. So they're not in good relationship. Then this one is also going to help you to determine the level of support client has. So when a person is talking, kila saa anaongea, people are not there for me, it's only maybe my son, or it's only my neighbor, or it's only a friend who is there for me, then you know the issue here is about relationship. So here the relationship is weak and poor, clients feel unsupported. And that's why I say, if people are not there for you, then you feel you are so demoralized. You'll feel no one is there for you, then you feel unsupported. This can create a lot of psychological disturbance. So listen and understand. So this assessment is going to help us to know, is it the dimension of work which is disturbing this client? Then the other dimension is work. When we talk about work, as like we have 24 hours, how do we spend our 24 hours? And this way we say we don't have enough time to even revise, to do our assignment at office, to do our assignment, maybe side hustles. Hakuna wakati. So you know the dimension which is disturbing you, it's related to work. So the therapist or the helper or the counselor or the HR also considers the work environment of the client. How does your client spend his or her time, their energy, and even the resources at their disposal? So we have all the time. How do we spend it? Some have all the time. Wasema, mimi nishasoma, nimemaliza hii, I've done ABCD, I'm going to go to church, I'm going to do ABC, I'm going to school, I'm going to do, yani they are balanced. But you find some of us, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time for this, I have time for this. So you find that someone at times, it can really get psychologically disturbed. And we have the energy, the strength, whatever we have, how do we make use of it? And each one of us, we have a task to invest our energy in. Like, and once you invest your energy well, you do good things, you do your work well, you get that promotion. By the way, you'll feel safer, you'll feel more enjoyable, you'll feel more satisfied. But if you're not able to spend that time, or maybe the whatever you have within that time, it can create that psychological disturbance. So listen to your client and get to know which dimension is disturbing them. Is it about work? Is it about relationship? Or is it about identity? The other dimension is identity. When we talk about identity, like how are you identified? How are you labeled? Like you are Mama so-and-so, Baba so-and-so, Mrs. or Mr. or Doctor or whoever, you know, all those titles, or the church elder, the youth leader, and all that. So all those ones, when we talk about them, it gives us an identity. That's why we say, even at times, you can be called that hardworking person, that person who is maybe an underperformer, lazy person. Those are labels. That is an identity. So when we talk about this identity, this refers to how clients perceive himself or herself. And by the way, how we perceive ourselves, it influences relationship with other people. Nakiambianga, show me your friends, and I'll tell you your character. It will influence. So a person gains identity by association with others in the society. So whom are you associating with? How are you being identified? What labels have you given yourself? You know, there are some people, their identity gets lost, and it is known, like the way it is known, it is different. So the fourth task, remember, don't read this one. I need to delete, sorry. I need to delete that. So we have the first task or aim. You establish a working relationship. The second task, you clarify and you define a problem. Then the third task, you make an assessment, and I've given you 2 ways of making an assessment. And the fourth one, you negotiate a contract, to negotiate a contract. But don't follow this. When we talk about negotiating a contract, and this one is, remember, it's done under the exploration stage. You negotiate a contract by coming up with an agreement that in this session, we are going to be together. I'm going to assure you of confidentiality. And here, it's only going to be counseling. You know, there are times when you start having that exchange, barter trade, that maybe someone comes to a session and he or she is not able to pay, and kind of you can pay in kind. No, it's about counseling. And here we need to help our client. Remember, when we looked at the structuring skill, we look at it, you come up with that agreement. You come up with that agreement. Hello, are you hearing me? You know, I might talk and I find I'm alone.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Just ingine hii net inaweza kwenda kitambo na muko na naongea mdomo peke yangu. Thank you so much. So, when you're negotiating a contract, you are coming up with that agreement. What is going to happen in that session? What is going to be in that contract? And here it's like you're talking about the role of your client, what your role also is going to be. And all those, you talk about the session, how it's going to be held there. So that is about negotiating a contract. Those are the 4 tasks under the exploration stage. Those are the 4 tasks under the exploration stage. So, it's not moving. Okay. So what, to conclude under the exploration stage, we have 2 psychologists. One was called Joseph and another one was called Johari. So this is now what they came up with, what we call Johari's window. He talked about Johari's window. And when we are talking about Johari's window, by the way, when you look at this, these are just windows. When you look at this, these are windows, one window, the other one, there are 4 windows. So the first window is the arena open self, which you can call known to all. Known to all in the sense that the information which is here, this is about the client. This is about their attitude. This is about their behavior. This is about their character. And this character which is here, or the behaviors or the attitude of this client, it is known. Najua Flora nakasirika akifika this level. So someone knows about this client's behavior, their conduct, their behaviors, how they're interacting, what they like, what they don't like. So you find most of the information which is here, it's open. It's open self, which people know. And when the information is at this window, I don't have control over it because already it's open. It's known to all. And here you find that the information which is here is known to others and it's known to self. So you find here, there are things I know, I'm aware about, and I'm also aware that the other people know about it. So you find here the information which is here, by the way, when someone talks about it, it doesn't make you to feel vulnerable. It doesn't affect you in one way. So when they're talking about it, ama nikisema Flora ni divorcee, by the way, I'm not a divorcee, but I'm just giving us an example. Flora ni divorcee, I know I'm a divorcee, and even the others know I'm a divorcee. So it will not affect me because that is what I am. Flora is married, and someone will be saying, I know people know I'm married. So such a like behaviors. I know Flora is short-tempered. So I know I'm short-tempered, even the other people, they know that. So you find the information which is here, it's open. And by the way, the people, once they are open, that you know their characters, their behaviors, their attitudes. It's very easy to work with them. You know what they can do best, and you know what they cannot be able to handle. Then we have the next window, which is not known to self. And by the way, under Johari's window, it is supposed to help us to gain some self-awareness. Self-awareness that there are some things maybe we are not aware, but it's going to help us so that we become aware about it. Like now, the blind spot or the blind self. When we talk about the blind self here, these are those things which are not known to self. I don't know about them, but other people know about me. And by the way, this is where you find most people in wherever you are, in like where I used to work. I used to tell my colleagues, leo tuko kwa blind spot, tunapeana feedback. So we used to have, every time we have one individual, tunamchambua. So you tell them, and remember here, they're not aware about it. You tell, but mostly start with the positives. Here you talk about what this person is good in. Mupandishe ngazi, you're a good person. You are always concerned about other people. You are a good listener. You are always there for others, you know. But Flora, what you need to work on, that is now the negative. And mostly people don't like being given feedbacks on the negative. But if you want to grow, please accept to be given negatives. People are comfortable in giving positives, but also emphasize to be given feedbacks on negative. So those negatives are things you need to work on. You know, it sounds better than when you tell someone, Flora, I don't like the way you do ABCD. You know, it will put me down. But if you tell me, Flora, what you need to work on next time, it will be able to help me so that I don't repeat the same mistakes I repeated in a certain group, and I'm also meeting another group and transferring the same mistake. So those feedbacks, here we get them through feedbacks. So those feedbacks will be able to help me to learn some things or to be aware of some things which I was not aware about. And once you get those feedbacks from these others, it's going to help you so that you reduce this window. What we want is you to reduce this window by receiving those feedbacks from others. Na kuna watu wanapendanga, maybe when they are talking, like with due respect, men, mnapenda kuzip up the zip, the trouser. Na inakuwa, oh, you have checked, but you keep on repeating the same. Maybe you're not aware about it. It's not known to self, but someone will tell you next time, utakuwa very aware about it. Then the other window is the facade or the hidden self. The hidden self, these are some of the things maybe which are known to you, not known to others, but they are known to self. But you find here, this information, mostly we say, just a minute. Mostly we say, there's some information which is known to you, and mostly we refer them, it's like something which is private. Or it's not known to others, or if it's known to others, there are very few who know it. So you find here, we want to encourage this person to self-disclose. You start self-disclosing, you talk about that information. And you find mostly when you don't want to talk about your issues. Remember, we said counseling is to help people so that they can be able to be emotionally fit and healthy. And how you're going to be emotionally fit and healthy is by you sharing, disclosing, instead of you keeping that information to self. So under this facade or the hidden self, this is whereby we need to help these clients so that they can be able to share this information which is here. And once you share, you are reducing this window. You are becoming aware. Then the last one is the unknown self. Unknown self, you can also call it unknown to all. It's neither known to you nor to other people. So you can see here, when you're looking at this, we have not known to self and not known to others. So none of you knows. And this is where you find that mostly there are some issues maybe which we went through, which were very painful, which are so embarrassing. You don't want even to remember about it. You don't want to think, and you have repressed to that window. This is where you find also we have talents, we have potentials, we are not aware about them. Tumesisukumia kwa hiyo unknown to all. So it's not known. No one knows. But as you are sharing, under this, you are sharing, you are exploring, you are going deeper to discover. So all that one, it is going to help you be aware about some of the other issues which you had repressed, and you are not aware that they're the ones which were making you to come up with these symptoms. You know, out here, you have that anger, you have that pain, but you really don't know what is the root cause of it, because it is in there unknown to all. So the essence of Johari's window is supposed to help us gain some self-awareness by reducing these three windows, so that we enlarge the known to all window or the open window, so that whatever information we'll be hearing here, it will not make us vulnerable. And it will be very easy for us to work with these individuals, because already you know who they are, where they're coming from, and how they can be able to respond or react in different situations. This one also, at times, it is something we need to be aware about. Then we go to the second stage, under exploration stage, which is the understanding stage. I might not go into much details about the other two stages, because when we talk about the understanding stage, this is where I told you, where you say, oh, nishajua. Ukifika hapo, that is understanding. So here it's more concerned about clients, how do they see themselves in a more empowering way, new empowering way, in a different way. Yes, what has been making me not to have good relationship with my colleagues is because I usually come late to work. So what am I going to do differently? This whereby you try to help your client to adjust their frames of reference. If they were coming late to work at 9, they used to come to work at 9. Now, how are they going to do things differently? They will start coming to work at 8:30. That is, now they try to adjust their frame of reference. They try to adopt different views by using those challenging strategies. And this is why you say before I talk even about this, under the exploration stage, you don't challenge your client. The relationship is so fragile. The relationship is so young. Your client has not understood you. You have not also understood your client. Hapo ndio unasema, I can imagine. So you use all the supportive skills. But when it comes to the understanding stage, this is where now you can start challenging your client. I've remembered that because of this challenging strategy. You challenge your clients. You make them to look at things. Florence, if you've been coming at 9, what time will you continue coming to work? And you've seen it's making you to have a bad relationship with your colleagues. I'll try to be coming at 8:30. So you are adjusting your frames of reference. A process of journeying deeper into self, to look at things in a different way. You try to clarify some of the impact or some of the feelings, the attitudes or beliefs on the way you've been behaving. And then you look at it, how am I going to do it differently? So that is about the understanding stage. And under the understanding stage, it also has its tasks or its aims. And one of the aims is to reassess. And by the way, if you do your exploration well, these other stages is like you are revisiting the first stage, reassessing. And remember, in the exploration stage, we said you make an assessment. But under the understanding stage, you reassess. That is, you try to have these clients so that they can be able to gain maybe greater self-understanding, to see their problems from a different perspective. That's why you say they try to adjust their frame of reference. They look at it in a more empowering and liberating way, that they can be able to change and adjust and things be better than the way they are. The other task is to maintain a working relationship. For clients to continue going through the counseling process under this, you need to continue maintaining a working relationship. Remember, we said in the first stage, under exploration, you establish a working relationship. So here you need to maintain that working relationship with your client. That is why once you maintain that working relationship, the clients will feel free to question themselves or to ask any question. But when a person is new, you really don't know. Do I ask a question? Do I keep quiet? Sasa anapenda nini? Ni nini apendi? Do I ask the question at the end of the presentation? Do I ask the question in between But now this time you have already understood your client. The client can easily question themselves, ask any question. They can explore themselves deeper. And this relationship, they will become closer to you. And once you know you are closer, unasahau, then now you start. That's why we say we be at the same wavelength. And during this, you can also it makes a client to feel like they can be able to open up. So they can also experience this discomfort of let go their behavior. So by reviewing themselves, by the way, once you've created this relationship, how do I come out of this behavior? How do I look at things in a different way? So maintaining relationship is being supportive for their discomfort and anxiety. Just imagine you've gone to a new organization and you're getting new people there. When you're working with them, si unaogopanga hata kuuliza maswali. But once you get used, you walk in, you freely share with those people. So maintaining that work relationship you're going to be supportive to them, and that issue of having discomfort or that anxiety will not be there. Then the other task is to pursue the work of the contract. Remember we said you negotiate a contract, but here you continue now pursuing the contract. And remember, whatever agreements you've made with your client, it has to be continuous. So counseling is a contractual relationship. That's why you enter into a contract, and this is what makes counseling to be counseling. You as HR, you need to apply the counseling skills all the time. But now when you're really going to do counseling, and for it to be a professional counseling that your client can be able to sue you, is when you enter into a contract. So you keep the contract in mind as a guiding principle when you're dealing with the client. So these are some of the challenging strategies. So those ones I'll not go through. The last stage is the action stage. The action stage. And when we are at the action stage, we are talking about how, it deals with the goals, it deals with the actions, how you're going to implement the changes, maybe to put it into practice. And then this is the time you also need to terminate the session with your client. So it also has its aims, but we say under the action stage, there's a goal which you wanted to work towards. There's an action you want to implement. There's that termination, you're going to end that relationship. So one of the aims is to decide on appropriate change. By the way, if you have an issue and you really want to take an action, first decide on the appropriate action you want to take. Like identify a specific change you want to make. What exactly do you want to make? What is this change you want to make? Then once you have decided what change you want to make, you need also to change that. Those changes, will they have an impact in your life? So you don't just decide that you want to change, yes, but ask yourself, if I change, is it going to have an impact in my life? So you decide on the appropriate change. So once you have decided on an appropriate change, then you need to implement that change. That is, you decide on what actions to take, and you take them. You explore different options, and you choose the appropriate one. And that is why we say at times, you as helpers, you're helping a client. A client might reach somewhere, and yes, they have decided maybe what they need to change, and they want to implement that change. But when you assess, you feel like this action the client wants to take cannot be able to work for them. You don't tell your client, I know, nikikuangalia, haitawezana na wewe. You don't do that. What you do, you explore more on that option which your client has taken, because already you have known your client. You have known their strengths, you have known their weaknesses, and we said you don't influence them by your own values or attitude, but you try to explore so that they look at it in a different way. So whatever they want to implement, please explore different options and let them choose the appropriate one. Then also, what are some of the rewards? What will be the costs if they're going to do? What will be these new changes they're going to make, they're going to get out of that? Like if it's going to work late, I know you have said, I just want to improve on my time management. It's going to help me, the reward and the costs of the new changes. It's going to help me to have good relationship with my colleagues. It's going to help me even to have good relationship with my bosses. It's going to help me so that I can be able to get that promotion. Then from there, can you transfer that learning? You transfer that, identify the resources which they had not used there before, or the skills maybe they may need to develop. And by the way, it may be coming late, so they need to be assertive. They share about what is this which was making them to be coming late. And remember, even in our organizations, people come late to work and we keep on quarreling them. But maybe we don't know whether they have other issues, contributing variables. We need to know them so that we can be able to help them when they're going to transfer this new learning. Yeah? And let's transfer new learning. Maybe they have acquired maybe some new skills, then they put it into practice into the real life situations. And when they're going to transfer that learning, they might be undergoing some obstacles, some hindrances. So what is this which is making them not to come on time as they wanted to? And how are we going to overcome or minimize these obstacles of them not being able to come to time to work on time? So you need to look at those obstacles and then you look at ways. Yes, you might not be able to come at exactly 8 o'clock, but can you manage you be coming at 8:30 because everything has to be gradual instead of coming at 9. So here, this is what you need to look at. Then lastly, the last aim or task is to end the counseling relationship. Remember, end relationship, when you are with your clients, you emotionally get touched, like you get involved. Now it comes a time you're going to disengage. Recognize the loss of that relationship. Recognize the client's new learning because you've been together. What is this they have learned in that session? A client to explore what it means to him to end this relationship. It is where will I be going? Whom will I be sharing with my issues? I'll feel so lonely. All those ones. Then to plan for a good ending, you start. By the way, when you're almost going to end, you prepare your client that this is our first session, and when you will come to the 4th session, we'll be ending our sessions. So be alert of the possibility of feelings of sadness and how to end this relationship. How are the client at the beginning of the session? You know, when you come in, you have that discomfort, you have that anxiety, but now you're moving on. How was it at that time when you came in? Relate the client's new behavior to the contract, like what they are, when they came in, what they were expecting and how they are now. Your perception on how the client has changed and developed. This is now the feedback. You, as a helper, you need to give your client. I can see you have really become aware of yourself. And I pick from the sharing we have gone through, you have a lot of potential. Motivate your client. So share also what was critical during that session and offer to support your client. So you end that relationship. Something I want, like when they want to take that action, we have what we call some force field analysis. There's one psychologist called Kurt Lewis. He came up with a force field analysis. Like this is a method of helping clients to appraise their goals. So this, you need to decide on the appropriate options. And this, for you to be able to, these options, we have two opposing forces under this, whereby we have these forces, we have restraining forces and facilitating forces. Remember when we said you want to transfer the learning, you might be having some obstacles, or there's some people, how do we need to minimize these obstacles which are making us not to transfer the learning. So and I told you the restraining forces, by the way, they are negative. They usually demoralize our client. So you find these obstacles that hinder the client from transferring their learning. We need to identify which are these restraining forces. We discuss the way to cope with them. And the client should not dwell, we should not dwell, by the way, on those negatives, because they're going to demoralize our client. What we need to dwell on most is about these facilitating forces. The facilitating forces, these are positive forces, the ones which push a client towards change. Yes, I want to do this. I know I can make it. There's something I can be able to do. And these are the form of support systems who are there to support me when I want to implement these changes. What are some of the skills which I've learned that they are going to help me to implement the changes? They need to be strengthened. They need to be supported. They need to be encouraged so that a client can be able to take action in whichever they want to do. Let's not dwell on restraining forces. Any question up to there before I go to skills? Before I go to skills? Any question up to there? Or do I go to skills? Then if you have a question, you can ask. Okay. Skills are also very, very critical. And this is what I told you, when you possess the skills. By the way, if you look at it, when you go to college, what we get, they do these professional courses, like what you're doing now, or you're doing a training in a certain area. It makes you to be competent in that area. And it makes you acquire a skill on how to do some work. So when we talk about the counseling skills, like we are asking, what is a skill? Who uses these skills? Whom do you prefer to be with? Someone who talks to you or someone who listens to you? By the way, kama sahi ni nani, whom do you prefer? Like the last question, whom do you prefer? Someone who talks to you or someone who listens to you? Especially when you have issues. We prefer mtu kama nani? Tuache kukua na mdomo perepere so that we can be able to listen. Or we talk so that a client can be able to listen to us. Whom do you prefer? Hello? Whom do you prefer?
If you have problems, I think I'll prefer someone who listens.
When you have a problem, you prefer someone who listens. What about the others? Hello? That is Betty.
Same.
What about the others? Yes? Aki simuonge. Can you talk? Okay. Sawa sawa. We say you don't push your client so much. Yes.
I would say this. Sometimes I would prefer someone who speaks to me. Yes.
You prefer when someone speaks to you?
Yeah.
Kila saa naongea tu vile ninaongea hivi na nyinyi mnanyamaza tu. Pale.
No, sometimes when someone is listening,
mimi ninaongea mpaka mate inaisha, mpaka natafuta maji ya kunywa. And okay, thank you so much. But we also say that in counseling session, it is not your session to talk. Sikiza mteja. Because remember we say that we need to help them so that they can be able to emotionally vent out their issues. They can be able to share, talk. And remember we said talking alone, it's a healing in itself. Okay? So either can be, yes, you need to talk, but it depends. Ongea kidogo, sikiza sana. That's why we say in counseling, when you are, if it's counseling, unakuwa na masikio kubwa, macho kubwa, kamdomo kidogo, because it's not your session. If you want to talk more, then be a client and you come to a session. So we are going to look at 19 skills, but I'm not very sure whether I'll be able to go through all of them, because we are supposed to stop at 4 o'clock, but nidukula masaa yenu kidogo, so I'll go up to maybe 4:10 or 4:20. Yeah? So let's see how far we can go. Do you need me to go through all these skills? One, when we are talking about skills is like we all need to acquire or possess these skills. And once you possess these skills, they are going to make us to communicate effectively with our clients. Remember, if you don't possess these skills, then your communication might not be effective. And for us to be able to have that effective communication with our clients, that interpersonal relationship, then we need all to possess these skills. One of the skills, I'm just talking about them randomly, we have the attending skill. When we talk about the attending skill, this is a skill we call, it's a preparatory, like before you meet your client, by the way, you need to set your room. You need to prepare your room, a therapy room, whereby you have to put some seats there, whereby they have to be similar. Or if it's a plastic seat, let them be plastic seat. Kama ni ile ya kuswing, zote tukae ya kuswing. Kama ni ya mbao, kama ni stool, let it be uniform so that someone doesn't feel like the other one is senior than the other. Let's place a tissue there. Let's a stool and a serviette or a tissue. Let's have a clock whereby we'll be able to be having that glance of time, so that, because we know that when you're dealing with a client, you need at least to have your client, if it's 1-to-1, 45 minutes to 1 hour. If it's a group therapy, then you need to have 2 hours to 2.5 hours. So once you have set your room and you have those 2 seats, now your client is coming in. We start by using the first skill, which is the attending skill, which we have called the preparatory stage. And this attending stage is skill is whereby you devote your time and energy to listen to your client, a way of sharing with your client. And this attending skill, it also aims to build a healthy working relationship with your client. And remember, do you know the first impression you have? You can either confirm to that or it can change. That's why we say the first impression you have, even the way your client is going to come in and how you're going to receive them, it can be able to create that relationship, either which is going to be a healthy working relationship or a relationship which someone feels, already you are shining charge. So this attending skill, it includes both social and physical skill. So when we talk about social skill, how do you welcome your client? How do you greet your client? And this way we say in counseling, we don't just welcome our client and then you start stretching your hand. We are from different cultures. We are dealing with clients from different cultures. So cross-cutting issues, the cultural issues have to be respected. If you stretch your hand and someone brings the head, or you're stretching your hand and someone is kneeling down, you'll start getting embarrassed from the start. But just welcome your clients, tell them welcome. If they stretch, then you also stretch. The issue of how do you greet your client? Do you sound to be kind? You know, you talk as if that kindness, that politeness. The way I'm talking here is not the same way I talk when I'm in a session. Those are 2 different personalities. Huko naongea, you are polite, you sound to be kind, and you welcome so the welcoming, the way, that attitude you're showing your client. So this is what forms the preparatory stage. Then a second skill under the attending. Remember, attending, I've told you it has 2 skills. the social skill, and the physical skill. So the physical skill, this is an ability like physically being present for your client. Like now you've put those two seats. It means you're physically going to be present with your client or for your clients, and you are going to give your undivided attention. That's why we don't want distractors. We don't want desks. We don't want tables. We only want those two seats whereby a client can be able, you can be able to observe your client from head to toe. And when you're also using this attending skill, you're going to make that appropriate eye contact. By the way, when you talk about eye contact, you don't stare, but you maintain the eye contact, that you can be able to observe your client from head to toe. You can be able to observe the body language. You can be able to use those gestures of nodding, and you see them. So this attending behavior shows your client that you care. So this this attending skill, we have an acronym we call SOLA, whereby we say sitting at a comfortable angle and distance. That is sitting squarely. Squarely in the way that you put the seats which are facing each other, but if it is so intimidating because of the culture issues, you just tilt your seat kidogo tu. Then you be in an open posture. In an open posture is whereby when you are with your client na umefunga mikono na miguu, then it's like you are communicating to shachoka. Can you be in an open posture? You open your arms and your legs, you don't cross them. Then you also try to lean forward appropriately. By the way, have you heard what Uhuru has told Ruto? Mumesikia? Before we came for this session, I had news, so I was rushing to watch and then come back. Remember, it took a few minutes. Uhuru has told Ruto that, are you listening?
Yes.
Are you listening? He has told Ruto, are you seeing the way you want to hear Iko Kamoshene? That is the way I want you to be leaning forward to hear even the issues Flora will be presenting to you when she's in a session. But because you want to hear the politics, it's about Ruto, it's about Uhuru, it's about Raila, it's about Okoa. You want to know where are they? What have they said? What is going to happen? So the way you want to listen, that is the same way I want you to be listening to the client issues. And that is why you need to lean forward appropriately from time to time, to show that you are interested, you want to hear what has been said or what your client is saying. Then you also need to, after leaning forward appropriately, you need to maintain that eye contact, that is effective eye contact without you staring. You know, when you're staring, you're just looking at one area. And that one can be so threatening, especially if you have opposite sex. It can be so threatening, yeah? So please maintain eye contact. Angalianga kutoka kichwa kuja chini mpaka kwa mguu, because some people start fidgeting their feet. Some people will be scratching their head. Some people will be sitting halfway. Na kiti wamelipia akae full, but they're not sitting on it. So you need to be observing those non-verbals. And then you also need to remain relaxed. You mean relaxed. Remember, we say that you need to lean forward appropriately. You need to be in an open posture. Usikae una lean forward alafu unasahau, and then unakumbuka you're supposed to lean forward, unakaa kama uko mechanical. So we want you to be relaxed. And practice makes perfect. Like the two, we have a counselor, we have a client. So from where you are sitting, I don't know whom you're telling yourself is a counselor there. Is a counselor? Hello.
The lady.
The lady.
Yes. No, yanakaa kuna tushida tu. Even tie imekaa nusu, the way he is looking. So yours is to maintain that eye contact and you be in an open posture. Thank you so much. So that is the solar. You see this lady and this boy. The lady is using the solar there. So the second skill, So the first skill which we have looked at is the attending skill. Attending skill, it has two skills, the social skill and the physical skill. So the second skill is structuring. So I'll go very fast, but if you have any question, kindly ask. The second skill is structuring. And this is what makes counseling to be a professional counseling. So under this stage, this is at the first stage of the session. And we say that here it's an interactional process whereby the role of a client and the role of a counselor in the session is discussed. This way you talk about the time when you're going to be starting your sessions. This is where you're going to start. If you're going to charge the fee, how much you're going to charge the client. This way you talk about the issue of confidentiality. And when you talk about, as you've come to this session, Betty, I'm assuring you of confidentiality in case, and it's not absolute confidentiality, in case you're intending to harm self or you're intending to harm other people, I'm not going to maintain that confidentiality. You give that disclosure that, yes, I'm going to assure you of confidentiality, but in case you're intending to harm self, if you're going to attempt harming self, make sure you succeed. If you don't, the state will be suing you. And if you're also intending to harm other people because they have made you to go through the issues you're going through, then I'm not also going to keep that information. This way you talk about the number of sessions, and we say at times people come for a session, they really don't know. So you tell them here, the number of sessions will depend with the issues we're going to present. And there are some who specifically come, but I come for 10 sessions or 5 sessions. Our sessions are going to be 5 because already know. But when you don't know, you just say the number of sessions will depend with the issues, which you're going to present, and even the venue where you're going to have this session. That is when you enter into a contract, you enter into an agreement on what is going to backfire in that session. And here you are telling the client that they are not there to sit and wait for solutions. Both of you are going to work. Active listening. When we talk about active listening is whereby you as a helper, you have that ability that you can be able to hear and you recall what your client is saying. Remember, you'll be in a solar situation, like you'll be using the solar. You'll be in that open posture. You'll not be jotting down notes. That point is very critical. You have to be actively listening without having any distractions, so that later you can even be able to recall what I talked in the first, when we started the meeting and we are almost ending the meeting. So, and here you actively listen to both the verbal data presented by the client. You should not take notes in a session. And that is why you have to be actively listening. So you say that this one is also a technique which is used in counseling, when you're also doing training, when you are solving disputes or conflicts, wherever you are, you have to listen to what their views are or their ideas are. So the listener fully concentrates, understands, you respond, then you remember what has been said. By the way, when we are talking about this active listening, there are some levels you have to listen. Listen the level of content, the story, the narrative, the facts. Skiza hiyo. As you listen to that, also listen to the feelings. Remember, we said in guidance, we talk about facts. That is the content. That is the story. That is how it was. Iyo ilikuwa. Then now you also need to be listening to the feelings of the client. Walikuwa na hisia gani? They had a lot of anger. They had a lot of guilt. They had a lot of fear. And all those ones. So which feelings were they able to express as they're talking about their content or about their story or about their issue? Also listen to the level of their behavior. How are they acting in regard to the issues they are sharing? How are they behaving? Are they maybe like as they are talking, how they are acting? Are they people are so annoyed? People are whichever situation in which they are, you also need to be actively listening to that. So I'll not go to examples of listening. I want to go to the third skill, which is observation. When we talk about observation, this is whereby you have that ability to see your client's behavior. You pick both the verbal and the non-verbal. And when we talk about observation, by the way, is very critical, because you find that mostly what we verbalize is very little. What we pick from the actions, the non-verbals, it is what tells you the truth. So in order to understand how clients feel, observe your own behavior and the client's behavior. How are you behaving? That's why we say how you behave can determine or can have an impact on how the client is also going to respond. So, and remember here, we are dealing from clients from different multicultural differences. So in this nonverbal or nonverbal behaviors, let's not be negative about it, but get it. And if you're not really understanding it, put it back to your client. So under this observation stage, observe their physical level. Like when they are talking, what is some of the energy? Are they people who are just like they're being drained? Are they people who are very energetic? Are they people, how are they expressing themselves? Like also observe their emotional level. Like emotionally, how are they like they're people who are depressed? Are they people who are feeling like they're hurt with what has happened? Are they down? Yeah. And also observe how they observe their interpersonal level. Interpersonal level is like how a person, that client talks to you. It also tells you how this person talks with other people outside there. So even in the workplaces, kuna watu kidogo, naturally, muko tu in a normal situation, then someone becomes so angry on something small, then they start quarreling. It also tells you, hata huko, anakuanga hivyo. So that interpersonal level, you also observe how he's relating with you in that session. You need to observe that. So you as a helper, you need to observe attending patterns of clients' behavior. That's what you have said. Observe the non-verbal behavior, observe the verbal behavior, observe conflicts, like when they are sharing those discrepancies, observe that individual or multicultural issues in those non-verbal behaviors. This is what we need to be observing. Yeah? The other skill, it is reflection of feelings. Reflection of feelings, I'll just give an example. Like, I know we look ourselves in a mirror. Like now, I'm standing here and I'm seeing myself in that screen. So me, this is what I am. So what am I seeing there? I'm still seeing myself. So when clients come to us and they are talking about their issues, it is like that mirror, it has been likened with like a mirror, which is in front of them. So like when you are looking at yourself in a mirror, you are seeing yourself there. So when a client comes and they're talking about their issues, what are they seeing in that mirror are the feelings. So it is concerned about the facts, and then you reflect on the feelings. That's why we say communicating back to the client what they have said. Like it's like when you're holding a mirror in front of you. So here, yourself, it is the real you, which are facts. And what you're seeing in that mirror, it is you, but what feelings are you able to see yourself in that mirror from what you're telling yourself? So here it's about when a client comes, and I just want to give an example on this reflection of feeling. A client will come and talk about, this issue of COVID. People now, they're being forced that they have to be vaccinated. And it's like they don't know the health of the people who want to go there. So like you ask me, Flora, I hear you. it's sort of what are you telling yourself when you are talking about this issue of COVID? You have a lot of fear, you see? So the fact is we have been forced to go. It's like being forced. It's a condition which has been put, like by this time you might not be able to receive the services. So out here, what I'm now feeling, maybe it's that fear or that anger. So you talk about the facts, and what you're telling yourself, you talk about the feelings. You reflect on those facts, what you're feeling. That is reflection of feelings. The other skill is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing skill, by the way, when we talk about paraphrasing, this is when you say what your client has said in your own words, but the content or the meaning remains the same. So you don't do parroting. Yeah? So whatever stories I talk in a paragraph form, can you be able to put it in few words and the meaning to remain the same? And at times you might paraphrase and the client tells you, no, that's not what I meant. It is okay, because that is what will make you to be working together and to know what your client meant, instead of you working with an assumption. So here it helps again to keep the client on the track. And by the way, this one also makes the client know that you're listening to them. And you cannot be able to paraphrase if you are not actively listening. So these skills, they go hand in hand. So you have to be actively listening so that you can be able to paraphrase by saying or stating what your client has said in your own words, but the meaning or the content remains the same. Another skill is summarization. Summarization, it's like whatever the client has said, or whatever, when you talk about summarization, this is like you want to pick the key issues. You want to tie together the whole session in brief. You want to sum up. You want to pick the important issues, the main themes which emerged from that session. You want to condense it. And we usually say summarization can be done at the beginning of a new session. Like now, I met you today, and we're supposed to meet next week. So before, as we're meeting next week, I'll summarize to you what we did this week. Or it can be done in between the session, in the middle of the session. As you're continuing with your client, you can summarize, maybe after 30 minutes, what your client has been able to share, what you have picked from that session. You can also summarize at the end of the session. Like we have been here for the last 40 minutes or 45 minutes. And in this session, I had you talking about your experience with your neighbors, how it has hurt you, how it has spoiled your relationship, how even your image has been dented. So all those ones, you are trying to pick the main issues. So when we talk about summarization, you are picking the main issues, you are trying to tie it together, what has been happening in that session, you are picking those important issues, and it can be done at the beginning, in the middle of the session, or at the end of the session. Questioning. If I eat into your time, please let me know. Questioning skill. When we talk about questioning skill, this is a very critical skill in counseling. And that is why we said what counseling is not. When you start investigating, it's number one. When you start interrogating, you're asking questions. So what kind of questions are you going to ask? And that's why we say, when we are using the questioning skill, we need to ask questions which sound to be in a statement form. You put it in a way that it's not really directly asking your client a question. And this skill, it's also used to explore the feelings of the client. We'll be able to get what the client's beliefs are, their opinion, their ideas, and their attitudes. So this is what the questions we're going to ask our clients will be able to help us to understand all this. And they can also be used to better understanding the problem. It will be able to help us to understand what exactly is the issue the client is presenting. And that's why we said we need clarification. And we define what the problem is. All that we'll be doing, we'll be asking those questions. And also when you're using this questioning skill, by the way, it's going to give a client also an opportunity to understand how to solve their own problems. Remember, I told you clients come in and they tell me I have an issue. I'm so confused. So the way you are confused is the same also the way they're also confused. So we have to come out of this confusion. So what is this confusing you? Already I'm asking a question. Make me also understand where the confusion is coming from. So in that sense, it gives a client an opportunity to understand what the issue is and to know how to sort out their concerns. And this questioning skill is going to provide us with very important information about the client's concerns. When you're using these questioning skills, there are some questions you need not to ask your client. Don't ask why question. If you're asking a why question, come to this maybe forum. You can ask them, why are you not talking? Why are you not maybe asking any question? Okay. Then let's not ask so many questions at the same time, rapid questions. Are you married? Do you go to school? Do you work? How many children do you have? Where do you stay? Which question is your client going to start with? So please ask one question at a time, because you have the whole 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then also, let's not ask questions containing answers. Flora, you are expectant, isn't it? Now, unaona tu I am. By the way, I'm not. So in that sense, it's like you are asking questions which are already containing an answer. Let's also not ask closed-ended question. Are you married? Yes. Do you have children? Yes. How many? 5. Where do you live? Maswali, jibu ni kamoja. Utauliza maswali, time utamaliza all the questions, and you still have 45 minutes hujafanya kitu. So please, let's learn to use or to ask the open-ended questions. Then we have the minimal prompts. Minimal prompts. How many minutes have passed? I'll pass. I'm not seeing. Is 6 how many? 6 minutes. Okay.
6.
Allow me I finish. Sorry?
6.
Okay, allow me to finish these skills, then you can be able to go for a break. Minimal prompts. When a client is talking to you, like now I'm asking, how many minutes are remaining? Mukinyamaza. Then you're not using those encouragers. Minimal prompts are encouragers. And this can either be verbal or short verbal actions. Non-verbal, it's like now when I've asked how many minutes are remaining, Mukanyamanza. But one used the verbal action by saying 6 minutes. At least you responded, thank you so much. You are encouraging me so that I can be able to continue expressing myself. So these minimal prompts are they are encouragers, which can either be verbal or non-verbal. They are tactics that help people to talk about themselves. And in this sense, it's going to make us to understand our concerns. And by the way, they can be done by using those verbal or non-verbal. Non-verbal. Non-verbal is whereby you nod the head. You can nod, nodding of the head. That is a non-verbal tactic. And that's why we are talking to someone. Harudishi, aongei, ni kama unaongea na hii ukuta. What time is remaining? What time are we stopping? It's not responding. By the way, someone will be so discouraged. Or they can be done by using the verbal sounds. Yes. Okay. I see. You know, you get encouraged. Ni kama unafungulia tap. But when you keep quiet, that person will not be able to talk. So please, anytime you are with a person listening or talking to you, kindly try to use those minimal prompts. Huyo mtu atafungulia na ataongea, unatumia and use the nodding appropriately. So atikila sana but you can use it appropriately. When you look at this skill, it's very easy to execute it. Like saying, okay, yes. And it's also very easy to omit it. Kuna watu wanakaanga tu, mtu anakuangalia, is not even responding, nothing. You feel so discouraged. So the rule, when present, they go unnoticed. When missing, communication suffers. So for us to have that effective communication, please try to execute these minimal prompts. Someone to see like you are interested in what they are saying, and they will be able to open up and talk more about their issues. Then we have the focusing skill. When we talk about focusing skill, when clients come to a session, they share so many issues, like you have gone through the structuring skill, have come to, like, you're free to share your issue. Then a person says, me, I don't even know where to start from. Start from anywhere. Me, I have an issue. My children are not going to school. I don't have school fees. The rent has not been paid. The bills are there. The school fees has not been, I'm so confused. So here, now you use the focusing skills. I've talked about so many issues which has brought me to this session. So you really don't know even where to start from. So you start by using this focusing skill by maybe picking all those issues which I've shared, and you ask me, Flora, where do you want us to start from? I've heard you talk about the rent, the fee, the bills, and school fees, and where do you want us to start from? This one, it enables a counselor to direct clients' conversational flow from certain areas. I want you to give me a flow. And it also helps a client to prioritize. When you talk about focusing skill, you help a client to prioritize on which issue they want. And this one, it has already given you a direction. And remember here, the client is so vague. It's so abstract. It's not clear. So we want them to give us a direction so that we know where are we going to start from and what are we supposed to do. That is about their focusing skill. You help clients to prioritize. Then we have another skill we call concreteness. Concreteness, this is now after your clients have prioritized on an issue, they have given you a direction of a flow of this conversation. Now you use this concreteness. Let them talk about, be specific. Let them they talk more about this issue. They try to avoid that vagueness and that ambiguity. They be concrete. And this is whereby they now come in, if it's about the issue of the children being out of school, you discuss the feelings, you discuss the experience and how they're acting. Let them be specific on that issue. So here it helps clients to turn what is vague and abstract into something which is clear that you can be able to understand. Concreteness is whereby now they talk more about that specific issue. But remember, even if they are prioritized, and now you have started using this concreteness where they are becoming specific. In the process, they might be mentioning the other issues. It is okay. But already they have given you the direction. They have given you the conversational flow. Now you will go into more exploration so that you get clearly to understand what makes the fee not to be paid. What makes all these issues to be there? They're the ones now who needs to go deeper and they talk about it. They stop generalizing things. 13 is the silence skill. By the way, silence skill, it's a skill in itself. And at times we feel uncomfortable when you're asking a question and people are not responding. Unauliza swali, you expect to get an answer. I know me, I have an issue with that. I'm still working on it for all these years, but I've learned that this when I ask and maybe they are not able to respond, it is okay. If they're able to respond, still we move on. So when we talk about silence, it's just being silent. And when a client is talking, you can ask a client a question. They take their time. They are reflecting so that they can be able to respond. Give them their space. Or a client might be sharing, Then they reach somewhere, kuna ile tunasemanga client ananyongwa na kiwaru. A client might be sharing and then they reach somewhere, they pause. Wananyamaza, give them their space. Be observing using the observation skill so that if the silence prolongs, you can be able to address it. So you can prompt that talk if that silence prolongs. So allow the client to speak about their issues without any interruption. Sometimes a new experience for them might make them to be silent. It enables the client space to process their thoughts, their feelings without any distraction. So give them space. No hurry. Just be silent. Give them their space. The other skill is self-disclosure. I'm almost finishing the self-disclosure skill. There are some I'm not going to talk about because we have already covered them somewhere. So self-disclosure skill, this is a skill also which at times you can be asked, like a client needs to maintain confidentiality. Discuss. Is it really that the client needs to maintain confidentiality? Who is this who is supposed to maintain that confidentiality? Okay, who is this who needs to maintain confidentiality? So, okay, so when we are talking about, when we are talking about this self-disclosure itself, and whatever you want to disclose in this session, it's what you as a helper, you have gone through. It's not what Flora's gone through, which is similar to what you've also gone through, but what me as a helper I've gone through, and that issue has been resolved. Then my client, okay, my client is also sharing a similar issue, which I've also gone through. Then I can be able to self-disclose. If I've gone through a similar issue with what my client is sharing, and the issue I've gone through is not resolved, I should not talk about it. So, personal information, which is personal views or experience with you are sharing your personal experience or views with your client with the purpose of improving the emotional and also feels understood. Right? Unaona hizo shida unaenda through the issues, I'm sure your client is going to share with someone else. Okay, so that is why we say that please share the issues which are similar with your client's issues, and these issues you must have resolved, and they have to be your own issues, not issues of other people. And when you're using the self-disclosure, be very brief. It's not your session, it's the client's session. And whatever examples or relevances you are sharing, let them be appropriate. Let them be appropriate. Confrontation. At times, some people can talk about constructive confrontation. Whether it is constructive confrontation, whether it is confrontation, because you are confronting constructively. And when we confrontation, this is a challenging skill, which we said, challenging skills, we use them at the understanding stage and action stage, but during the exploration stage, we don't use them. So self-disclosure is a challenging skill. Confrontation is a challenging skill. We're also going to look at immediacy, which is a challenging skill. So when we talk about this confrontation, this is whereby you are giving your client an opportunity to examine behavior